I went to purchase my second home. Kind of a similar situation, not on the loan part, but understanding what goes along with getting a VA mortgage and the requirements for housing that the VA has.
Yeah.
So I was getting a new construction, and I was expecting a certain staircase in my home. And when I went to check on the build, the staircase wasn't there.
Oh, fun.
And so I called the builder's rep, and they were like, well, the VA won't let us build it that way. We have to build it to the standard. And I was like, I don't understand. This is your floor plan.
Welcome to Agent Success Podcast. If you're a real estate agent looking to succeed in today's crazy market, well, you're in the right place. Each week, we talk with successful real estate agents willing to share their expert insights, trade secrets, and mindset that help them to succeed. There's no fluff, just straight to the point content that prioritizes one thing above all, your success. So without further ado, let's cut to the chase. Welcome to another episode of Cut to the Chase. I am Tim Chase, your host, and we are talking all things real estate, how to succeed in real estate, how to build your business in real estate, how to be better in real estate, and I interview the best in real estate. Today, I happen to have one of those with me. Longtime friend of mine, Ms. Brandy Brown. How are you, Brandy?
I'm good. How are you? Good.
Brandy owns EXIT Realty Mountain View. You've been doing this for a couple of years now. Okay, so you're hitting about 2 decades. Big deal, right?
God.
Yeah. Does that make you feel young when I say that? Yeah,
pretty much.
2 decades. Yeah. Okay. And you have a team?
I have a company.
You have a company. Yeah. You have a company and a team, right?
I don't actually have my own team.
Okay. Well, is your company your team?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. How many agents do you have?
23.
That's it, 23? So you've only recruited 23 people?
Only,
wow.
yeah.
That's a big deal.
Probably
right?
recruited a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But,
But that's a big deal because it's difficult to build a real estate business because, like in mortgage business, like what am I offering that's going to attract that person? And what type of person do I want to attract?
Right.
Sometimes you can have a phenomenal thing and attract less than phenomenal people.
Sure.
So to have something amazing and attract the right people it can be difficult. So that's great that you're out doing that. That's much harder than a lot of people think. Let's see, best of Colorado Springs in 2023.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't been best of anything in 2023. I'm trying, right?
Sounds like you're the best of podcasts.
The best of podcast. There we go. I get an award. That's a participation award, but at the same time, maybe most improved over time. This is our second take, right?
Well, Best of the Springs is voted on by your clientele and people in the community, so
okay.
A big deal.
Well, that could be then. So, tell me about PPAR and WCR. What have you done with them?
I was Women's Council of Realtors Pikes Peak membership director last year in 2022.
Thankless job.
Aren't all of our jobs thankless jobs? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, a lot of the volunteer stuff for your local boards and your women's council, stuff like that. Sometimes you put a ton of work into those things. They take far more hours than a lot of people understand.
Yeah, people don't realize what it takes to volunteer.
Yeah.
All of those members that are now serving on those boards, kudos to them.
I did some stuff with WCR,
a huge commitment.
a few years ago, and it was like every time I thought that I had my day, like, okay, all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, man, I got like 2 hours of of commitments to do here. It always at the end, I think it was in the grand scheme of things very worth it, but when you're committing those couple hours at that exact time, you're like, oh man, this is kind of time consuming.
It is, but it's definitely worth it because you're networking in the community and you're meeting the other people that are doing what you do every day, and that's encouragement and help. And when we say that it's thankless, the people that notice that what you're doing, those are the people that matter anyway. And
maybe I wanted a parade or something. That's what I wanted. I didn't just want like, hey, thanks, man. I wanted like, yeah, he did it. Something a little more encouraging.
Right.
Well, hey, let's jump into a couple things really quickly. Sure. What got you into real estate? Like, why did you decide to go down this questionable path of real estate?
Well, we've talked about this before, and I had purchasing my first house when I'm 21. You don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know what I didn't know.
Were you military at the time?
I was.
Okay.
And the agent was also at LO.
Oh, so the agent was your LO and your agent.
Yeah. And put me into an FHA mortgage instead of talking to me about my VA options.
He or she probably did not understand VA.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you're in a military community, you should understand VA, right?
Well,
you would think,
yeah.
So
common sense ain't so common, Brandy.
Right. I went to purchase my second home. Kind of a similar situation, not on the loan part, but understanding what goes along with getting a VA mortgage and the requirements for housing that the VA has.
Yeah.
So I was getting a new construction, and I was expecting a certain staircase in my home. And when I went to check on the build, the staircase wasn't there.
Oh, fun.
And so I called the builder's rep, and they were like, well, the VA won't let us build it that way. We have to build it to the standard. And I was like, I don't understand. This is your floor plan. Like, somebody tell me what the heck. And they pulled out a regulation that I had no idea about. And
that sounds weird. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right?
Yeah, wow.
I think you're the one that taught me about that later down the road.
Okay, well,
but I didn't know what I didn't know again.
Yeah.
And so I threw a fit, and they ended up making some concessions. They couldn't fix the staircase. It had to stay as it was.
Yeah.
But they made some concessions to me on that build, gave me a couple of upgraded things. And my lender, she said, I think that you should probably get into real estate because the way you advocated for yourself is what people need in a real estate professional advocating for them. So I took the 2-week course for licensing in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And got a little real estate license in 2005.
Did your license have reciprocity into Colorado, or did you have to retake it?
It did, but I let it expire because when the housing market did its thing last time.
Because you said that was 2005?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
in 2008, I moved to Hawaii, and getting a license in Hawaii is much more difficult, and they don't have reciprocity.
You just let it lapse.
I let it go, yeah.
Gotcha. Did you buy in Hawaii?
I did not.
You rented in Hawaii?
I should have.
So
knowing now.
Yeah. I would have definitely come and visited.
Everybody should have bought in Hawaii in 2008 and 2009.
Yeah. So do you think it's better for somebody PCSing here? And I know the situation will be different for different people, but what situation is right for buying, and what situation would you maybe look at and say maybe you want to be renting and not buying?
We're brokers. I'm a broker. It's always the right purchase. But if you're not going to be here, if like you're coming down on, you can move here in military and you're coming down on assignment. Some of those tours are 1-year commitments, and then they move you again depending on what your job is in the military. If you're going to be here 12 months, you probably maybe don't need to
look at rent.
buy. You might want to live on post, or
unless you want to be a landlord.
Right, unless you want to be a landlord, because if you try to sell that in the year, you're not going to recoup.
Yeah, unless you have a magical 12% increase in the market in that year.
And, and I don't think we're going to see that again.
Probably not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
Okay, here's this is an off-script question that I was thinking about this morning. And so it's not on any of my kind of predetermined questions at all. This is just a thought. And so I'm wondering, do you think, so right now it's difficult for people to get approved for a loan because you have high house prices and you have high mortgages.
Right.
If you had to pick one, is it the high mortgage? Is it the mortgages are too high, or is it house prices that are too high? Now, I understand that I'm in the mortgage world, so I know I'm going to say something. You're in the real estate world, so you're probably going to have a thought on this as well, but it may be different than mine.
Well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive of each other.
Okay.
When the rates were really low, what did it do? It gave people more buying power. What did that do? It drove the market, which drove the prices up, right?
So now rates stabilize.
Right.
But house prices are very high.
Right.
So people are complaining, and I keep hearing this, like, oh man, interest rates. And I pulled these charts, right? And I'm like, well, over the last, 2 years, it's been pretty inexpensive for money. Well, it's been 3 years, very inexpensive for money. The cost of money is very cheap. Right. And what that does is when the cost of money is cheap, the demand will go up.
Right.
And then as the demand gets too high, you have to raise the cost of money, which will then lower the demand. So you have to create this balance. And so the Fed and Jerome Powell, they're trying to do this balance. I don't know if they're doing a good job or bad job because I'm not an economist. I got opinions, but it's like self-serving opinions. That being said, though, when I look at collectively, let's take the last 10 years out of it. So from the recession in let's call it 2009, okay, 2010, something like that, up until, or maybe like 2012, up until now, the interest rates have been below 5 almost always. Okay, so as I was looking at this rate chart, the last 3 years have been ridiculously low, but most people who have bought in the last 10 years have experienced very low rates, and now rates are above that and higher than that. So it led to the thought of, well, maybe it's not interest rates, because before that, rates were always above 5 and 6s and 7s and 8s and 9s, right? They were always above that, but people could still afford to buy houses.
Right, because the houses didn't cost $500,000.
Exactly. So now our average, what is our average?
It's
like high fours, right?
490s, I think.
Which is crazy.
Right.
It's very expensive.
When I bought my first house here in Colorado, I paid $250 for it because it did not appraise.
I paid $255 for mine. Yeah, when I bought here in Springs. But that was, my gosh, that was 17 years ago, something like that. So it was a little while back.
Yeah.
But that being said, it just made me kind of curious, like, how would a real estate agent, so I know I kind of pinned you down on that question, right? But how would a real estate agent look at that? Because a real estate agent, like, as any homeowner, we like appreciation.
Right.
That helps us, right? And we love that. But when rates, we say they raise, but did they normalize? And if they've normalized, then our house price is too high.
Well, they did raise. Are they normal? Do I feel like they're normal? I paid $8.375 on my $72,000 1,000-square-foot house in 2001, right?
Yeah.
So
$100,000 at 8% is pretty cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
So
$500,000 at 8% is very expensive.
Right. So mortgage rates go up. We had that pricing. We had this steady increase in home values in Colorado Springs, and if you sold a house in the last 4 years, you probably profited greatly on that, right?
You made 6 figures on your house.
Even if you didn't own it for a long time, you still probably made a pretty penny on it. Well, who is the biggest perpetrators of misinformation in the market?
Politics.
Well, yeah, but I would also like to say that we do this to ourselves a lot of times.
Okay.
Real estate professionals and mortgage industry people. We cause the chaos in the market a lot of times because we are like, oh, the sky is falling. Everybody needs to buy a house right now. And then
you're pushing that
right. Or this is a great time to buy. And then we got people paying $50,000, $100,000 over list price for houses.
Those appraisal gaps were ridiculous.
Were we actually educating people and saying, are you sure you want to do this and understand what this means for your money and what this means for future sale of your home and what might happen in the market? Did we educate people enough for that, right? Or did we just throw people into houses and collect commission checks? So I would like to think that everybody that I associate and do business with, we did things the right way, and we talked to people about what the pros and cons were of buying and selling at certain times in the industry and the market. But what we also did is we were like, and I'm guilty of it too, I sold a house in 24 hours, and it was every house I put on the market had multiple offers, multiple showings, and it was gone in 24 hours. We were under contract, and I'm like, well, I got them $200,000 in equity on their cash out when they sold this house. We all did it. We all did it because it was exciting and was great, and it was cool to see the market do that. Well, now what's the average days on market?
I don't know. I imagine in the 20s.
It's probably a little bit higher for those little bit higher priced housing, right? So now we have sellers that think that they can sell houses in less than 24 hours.
We're gonna go put an offer on a house, a 30-day contract, and then we'll put our house up for sale. Well, we got to think this through. We got to be educated on this.
We've got to shift. We have to shift as professionals when the market shifts, and make people understand that the market's not always 24 hours on the market. Sometimes your house is going to sit longer, and here's the reality of the situation. Money costs more. Yeah. We live in a veteran community where people are going to be here 3 to 5 years, and they're really taking a hard look at what they're investing on. Yep. We also have a lot of professionals. I think medical profession in Colorado Springs at the beginning of the year was like the highest contributing profession to our local industry. It wasn't even military, it was medical. So now who's the target market, and understanding that a lot of people might be buying rental properties to help people that are travel nursing, because we have
I'll tell you, travel nursing, yeah.
We have a shortage of medical professionals now. So who is the housing demographic, and how do we serve each one of those demographics without making them feel like they can't afford to buy?
So as a real estate agent, then, understanding not just, you have to understand your local data. And oftentimes we get national data. That's we get right. The national average is yeah. It's very, very important for the local real estate agent to get local data, local accurate data that can help them say, okay, in this area, here's what's happening. Right. In this area, here's what's happening.
The communities they're serving, because
within that area,
Fountain is not the same as Briargate. It's not the same as Monument. It's not the same as Woodland Park. It's not the same as Falcon or Black Forest. All of those specific areas are different.
Well, Brandy, I live on the west side close to Manitou in an old house, and I heard rumors that there's really nice houses on the east side and the north. I've never ventured that far, but I hear they're very nice.
They're very nice.
And they don't fall apart, and you don't every weekend have to fix something,
I love Manitou, though.
Yeah.
I love those.
I'm actually in Manitou. I'm in that general area, right?
I kind of like those houses better. Everything's not a cookie cutter box, right?
No, and nothing's square.
Right.
So it's not only is it not a box, it's not square. It's a really crooked box, more of an egg shaped, right? So I'm going to jump into a couple more questions here with you really quickly. When you first started in real estate, you had, I imagine, some big grandiose plan. You were probably going to be the biggest, the best, whatever. A lot of people are.
Sure.
And then as you matured in business, your goals, I imagine, have changed. Can you tell me what they were originally versus what they are now?
Yeah. In 2005, I was just like, let me see if I could sell some houses and how this thing plays out, right?
Yeah.
And then probably 3 or 4 months into doing real estate, I was like, I want to own a brokerage, because my broker
3 or 4 months in? Oh,
yes.
Well, you're ambitious.
I worked for this mom and pop brokerage. Okay. They had been in the community since like the 70s. So it was like the grandparents, the parents, the kids, and everybody ran this brokerage throughout their
Did they wear gold
legacy.
vests?
No, they didn't. It was a little local brokerage.
Okay, gotcha.
And they were well known in the community, and all of the big players were starting to come into that community at that time, like Crylike and KW and everybody, the big brands were coming
So they had this little local dominance.
Yes,
and
so
all
they
of
had
a sudden,
this dominance, and then all of the local brands started filling up the area, and I was like, I'm never going to be that big box brand. I'm always going to be the mom and pop, and I'm going to open my own and leave this family legacy.
Oh, okay.
Markets are different in different places, and nobody told me, like, when you move, that might not be the case in the market where you're going. So you go to a different market, big metropolitan area, and people are like, we like this big box name over here.
I was gonna say, because EXIT's kind of a big brand, right?
Yeah, so we're kind of a big brand. We're actually one of the younger brands, but we've been EXIT's been around since 25 years.
25 years.
We celebrated our 25th anniversary last year, so we've been around a while.
You've been doing real estate almost as long as they've been in business.
Yeah, well, wow. I thought it was super cool when our colors originally were teal and like purplish color.
Yeah.
And so when they came into that community that I lived in and they put up the big exit sign, I was like, oh my God, I love their colors. But you don't join a brokerage based on their colors, or maybe you do.
Yeah, maybe you do. Do you have a vehicle painted in the EXIT teal or anything? Never. Okay, you're not that.
I drive terrible. I'm not putting my phone number and my logo on the side of my car.
You're like, do not base my driving off of my ability to do real estate.
Right.
Do you live on the east side of town?
Southeast, yeah.
Southeast, okay. Well, you have to drive a little aggressive. Like if I get over anywhere near the east side at all, it's like a NASCAR race to get to Costco or to get to King Soopers or something like that.
We have this diverse city, and everybody learned to drive different. My favorite is people in the South, they learn to drive on a tractor, right?
Yeah.
In a cornfield.
Yeah.
So you got people that ride the yellow, people that ride the, different. It's crazy. Yeah.
One lane's doing 27 and they're talking and having a good time, and the other lane's freaking out and honking and trying to cut people. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a pretty diverse city, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. That's very interesting.
You can tell how diverse the city is by, the traffic patterns and how people drive.
It is pretty wild. I can say I went around a guy the other day on the highway in the north end up by Interquest area, right up on I-25.
It's crazy up
and
there.
I'm driving, and most traffic is going fast. And this guy's just doing so slow, man. He's just like so just chill, and like he's in like a van. Like, man, what's this guy doing? Like I'm okay driving like at a normal pace, but I go around him, and of course I'm like, you have to stare at the person that you go around because you got to make this judgment, right? Like based off, like I already think how I know who this person's going to look. Now I'm going to stare at him when I pass him so I can justify my judgments of how superior you are in your driving abilities. So I go around him, and this dude was so chill. He had like a takeout styrofoam box in his left hand, eating with his right hand. I think he was driving with his knee, and he was talking to his wife in the passenger seat. And no cares in the world.
True story. Like this really happened.
Yeah, it was like Saturday. Brandy, not a care in the world with this guy.
So your judgment was correct then.
No, at first I thought it was like, you gotta be kidding me. Look at this guy driving with eating. But then after I thought about it for a little while, I'm like, man, I want to be that chill. Like, not a care in the dang world. He's gonna get where he's gonna get. Maybe 15 minutes after me, but he's gonna get where he's gonna get, right? And he's going to be super chill about it. He's not going to get somewhere because he'll like have some sort of road rage or something. It's not going to bug him. I don't
advise eating takeout from a styrofoam box while operating motor vehicle.
On the interstate.
Right, on I-25 of all places.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me what you think. Give me like a couple activities that a real estate agent has to do. A new real estate agent comes in. What do they have to do? Like a non-negotiable. If you want to win, you do this, you're going to win.
So it's funny you asked that. I've just left my office where we were doing a webinar. We were listening to a webinar from a top producing agent that does like over 35 transactions a year. And in
35 a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in her interview, she said, I don't have a CRM.
What?
She doesn't have a CRM.
Does she have a memory of an elephant?
She writes everything on paper, and it's like in a file.
Interesting.
I was like, her broker is failing her. Like,
yeah,
it was an agent, and probably not the broker failing her, but my immediate thought was like, where is your support as a agent that you are managing your clientele at more than 35 transactions a year on paper with no CRM, and no broker has guided you or told you it's time for a CRM.
And guess what? On the 17th of the month, a magical list pops up of people you're supposed to contact.
Right.
And you don't just have to remember it. Now, I used to use a 3-ring binder, and I called it
black book.
I called it my A to Z, my A to Z 1 to 31, or 1 to 31 A to Z. And I just got these little. I went to Staples or Home Office Depot or whatever, and I bought these little tabs that go in a 3-ring binder, A to Z, and I put each client in through A to Z based off last name. And at the front of the binder, I had my 1 to 31, which represented the days of the month. And I would just have a page on each day, and I'd write down who I was supposed to call. Like I'm supposed to call a person on the 17th. I go to the 17th and write it down.
Sounds like ninja training.
Yeah. So I then would look. I'd say, okay, I didn't think about the Smiths from the time I wrote it down until the time I had to call them.
Right.
I would go to the Smith and say, oh, read my notes on their real handwritten. It worked amazing, and here's why it worked, is because I did it.
Right. You were consistent with it.
That's why it worked. Now, just magically hoping it happened, that never worked for me, right?
So
like sometimes
when you say 3-ring binder, you lost me at 3-ring binder because I was like, you did what now?
Well, but
that is the ninja selling principle, and that's how you do it. You have this list of people, and this is who you call on this day, and this is who you call on the next day. So really having the consistency to grow your sphere and grow your database and talk to people and actually talk to them. And tell them you're in real estate and not be afraid. These are the things that new agents need to be successful, but dang, you need a CRM.
Yeah. Well,
it can't be a piece of paper.
And the way that I always look at it is, what is the best CRM? It's the one you're going to use. Right. It could be top producer. It could be, I don't know how many, there's a bazillion different.
There's a gazillion of them. And the first thing you should do is ask your broker, do you provide a CRM, or do we have access to a CRM? Every brokerage in town probably has some sort of tool for you to use.
Can I ask what you guys use?
We use Chime System.
You said Chime.
It provides our website and our CRM and lead generation database.
Oh, nice. And on the CRM, does it tell you who to call when and so on and so forth?
It does if you set it up that way. Yep.
Well, you like I say, it works if you work it, right?
So if you're looking, my personal recommendation, besides the one that we use, all of them work. Chime works, KV Core works, Lion's Desk, all of them work
Mm-hmm.
if you use the system. And if you learn the system,
Yep.
my IT gal and my admin would say, Brandy doesn't actually learn the system. She has us do it.
Well, it's important to know your
just set it
strengths,
up
right?
for me and tell me what needs to happen,
What do
and
I
then
need
we'll
to do
make that
here?
happen, right?
Yeah.
But if I had to give somebody one that's pretty inexpensive that will help you grow your database, I would say Brian Buffini's your referral maker.
I know a lot of people that have been using Buffini. Have you ever done coaching with Buffini? Well, you have, because I've got your mailers.
I'm a certified mentor for Buffini, so I can teach their courses.
His CRM, although I think it's intentionally not super robust because everybody has to be able to use it. Right. So they want it to be simple. But if you use it, it works.
Right. And every day it tells you who to call, who to visit, who to send a note to.
Yeah.
You know, all of the things that you need to do to stay top of mind to people that are in your database.
Mm-hmm.
And then what people don't realize is you actually have to get up and do this business every day.
Yeah.
You can't sit around in your pajamas. You can't watch your morning news, drink your coffee, and then,
and not
go
have
to
your day planned.
HGTV and fall down the rabbit hole, or get on YouTube and fall down the rabbit hole of videos or TikToks or whatever.
2 hours later, you're like,
it's
10. I better get going. Yeah, well, no, man, you should have been 2 hours into your calls at that point.
And I would also recommend that you don't check emails before you do your prospecting.
Oh, hold on a second. Let's hit that really quickly. That is, most people roll over in bed, open their phone, either look at email or social media, right? Yeah. So let's say that they look at email. Now you have a bunch of to-do stuff, right? So what time do you recommend doing prospecting, and for how many hours a day?
Time is your most valuable asset that you have. We all know that. That's not anything that I'm quoting. That's not a true statement. You have to prospect when you know that you're going to be good at it. So what is that for you? Depends on your personality, right? I'm best at prospecting from 9 to 11 because I've had my coffee. I've managed to not kill anybody, and I'm ready to go. But I also know that the moment I open that email, my day is done.
It's done.
It's done. So if I don't do those things, those prospecting activities prior to opening that email, it's going to blow up my day.
That's a lot of discipline for somebody who. So I'm going to summarize really quickly. What is the one activity? And here's my summary that I got from you. Number one, get a CRM. So this one thing turned into like three things, but all very important, right? Number one, get a CRM.
Right.
Number two, build your database.
Yep.
Number three, dedicate very specific time every single day to prospecting.
Prospect. Yep.
And prospecting is interesting because we get busy in the minutia. We get busy and I really need to search the MLS for this property. I got this client coming in from,
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I really need to build my CRM, but I have to, do 50,000 smart plans to add to it before I put anybody in it, and it has to be perfect. And then I understand that that's personality style.
Yeah. It'll never be perfect.
It won't ever be perfect. It always has to be something that's evolving.
Yeah.
But prospecting, people don't understand prospecting either. Prospecting is a whole slew of things. It's not getting on the phone and making cold calls every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. Prospecting can be going and visiting people, checking in on your local people that you've closed deals with, going to an event with someone, visiting a model home with somebody. There are a lot of different things that you can do to prospect that you are reminding people that, hey, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And what I find is if you don't remind people what you do, they forget what you do.
It's amazing, right?
And there's 5,000 realtors in Colorado.
Somebody's going to remind them.
Somebody's going to remind them with their mailer.
Yeah.
Or their note.
Yeah.
Or they're door knocking, or they're popping by. And if you didn't, guess what you just did? You lost that client.
It's very important to let people know. And I think to do it in a tactful way and do it in a way that keeps it in people's mind, but they have to connect with you as a human.
Absolutely.
Right? So as an example, when we always say when you call somebody like a past client on a birthday call, you don't mention business. You simply say, hey, John, just want to tell you happy birthday. Hope you have a fantastic day with you and your family. So anyway, happy birthday, man. We'll talk to you later. And just leave it like that. Not, hey, you know anybody looking to buy or sell anytime now or in the near future?
Right.
He's like, I'm honestly thinking about going golfing, dude. I'm not thinking about, well, that buddy of yours, he may want to,
So you can have that personal relationship with all of those people and do those happy birthday wishes and however you're building your business to do that. And social media, while it is inundating and daunting a lot of times, it's also very good. You actually see people's lives, even if they're painting the pink house and the white picket fence and it's not really like that. You can see changes in people's lives that you are on social media with. You can tell if you actually know them. Yeah. And that's how you can also stay top of mind for people when their kid, does a big play or something. Or Marquise mentioned my daughter's hair. So it's been this big thing on Facebook this past week. My daughter dyed her hair. We dyed her hair 2 different colors, and it was a 2-day process.
Your youngest or your oldest?
My youngest.
Okay.
And I haven't seen her blonde in 4 years. So to take all of that color that she had before out of her hair and see her blonde again was pretty cool for Mom, right? But to have people notice,
oh, you're adorable.
Your daughter's hair looks really cool, that's a big deal for me. Yeah. So that's something that I'm going to remember that she had said to me. Yeah. Like she paid attention to what was going on in my life, and it wasn't just her scrolling through my social media.
That's amazing. That's amazing to think of prospecting that way, to connect with people where they are. Right. And it's not, like you say, not necessarily just a phone call. Right. It can many other aspects.
Well, and the big thing, life changes. You can tell if someone's going through a divorce. Yeah. Well, now
which, by the way, you got
resource for that.
I was going to say you're buying at least one more house, possibly selling one. So.
Possibly, yeah. Or, new baby, and you got them in that condo that's 1 bedroom, and now they're pregnant. Guess what? That's a real estate opportunity, and to me, that's not being a shark or trying to, hound somebody for business. That's me saying, this is what I do for a living.
And I notice you have a change, and I'm here for you.
This is huge for you to have this change, and I will be that resource for you.
That's fantastic. Do you have any family members in the business?
No.
You don't?
I don't.
Oh. Do you wish any of your children would get in the business?
I do.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Some people don't wish that on their children. Other people are like, man, I really think my son or my daughter should get into this.
I want my kids to all be military. I want my kids to all be real estate brokers. I want them all to be contractors and do construction. Yeah,
you want to do all that.
Yeah, but part of me wanting to have my own brokerage was to leave a legacy for my family. So it's disappointing that none of them are in the industry.
Have you talked to them about that?
In the industry in a different way.
How so?
My oldest works at a bank. Okay. And actually is now saving for his own down payment and understands mortgages a little bit and what you actually need to get there.
Understand some finance.
Mom being like, hey, go see X, Y, and Z brokers. And so he's learning about finance and what it actually takes to have a mortgage. One of my middle sons is working toward becoming an electrician. And then another one of my sons is a certified welder. He just graduated welding school.
Oh, wow.
So they're all like
it can all be
connected somewhere in the industry, right?
An appendage of it, but it's not necessarily the real estate
selling
agent.
And buying part. But if Mom wants to start flipping properties and doing stuff, I got some people that might be able to do some work for me pretty inexpensively.
Good electrician is very important. So, and I'm going to hit a rapid fire, a few more questions here. Number one is, when should an agent look to build a team? Is it a certain amount of production that they need to get to, or like what is like the moment that you really need to look at that?
So I think that brokers need to educate better on some of that stuff, and I would start by saying, I wish I knew. Again, hindsight's always 20/20, and I had an amazing, phenomenal broker before I opened my brokerage, and when I came to her office, she said, you need a transaction coordinator, and I was like, I did 3 deals. Like, I don't need a transaction coordinator. Yeah. Wrong. Because if I would have laid that foundation when I only had 3 deals and had that transaction coordinator out of the gate, before I got so caught up in doing all of the tasks and then not being able to pick a transaction coordinator that I jived with, because now I'm doing 20 deals now I'm doing 30
frantic
deals.
And I
don't have a choice. I got to stay with the one I picked, even if I don't like them or even if they're not doing things to my standard. So I would say every individual agent broker out there is actually a team, and they should be out of the gate. you do the things that you're good at. And I'm not saying you should push everything off and not understand the transaction process, because then you have
to learn all those details.
You have to learn all the details, but you should at least have that transaction coordinator to guide you out of the gate, because if they're good and they've been around a long time,
you're going to learn a lot from that.
Guess what's going to be awesome?
Yeah.
You're going to have a perfect file, and when you turn that into your broker, they're going to be like, wow, I had a perfect
like,
file.
Dang, Brandy, that's pretty good.
So I would say, even if you're going to be an individual agent, you cannot do this rodeo alone, and you need to have a team of professionals behind you, whether that's a team where you have a showing agent, a listing agent, a buying agent working for you, and a transaction coordinator or an assistant. But you also need to grow your lender team, your inspector team, your title team. So
that team goes beyond just having a buyer's agent with you. Yeah,
absolutely. So I would recommend you think like you're going to have a team, even if you're going to be a solo agent forever. Okay. And that you at least hire yourself a transaction coordinator.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about, the kind of like pick one thing that you have to do. But I'm kind of curious here for anybody listening that's a real estate agent. What did you used to do in real estate that you found to be not worth doing that you've quit doing? We've all done activities before.
Do you even know me at all?
We've spun our wheels.
I'm a D personality, Tim Chase. Is there anything that I can let go of? Ask my team. Ask the brokers in my office. Things that I used to do, I used to run all my transactions myself. The year I did 52 transactions, I ran them all myself without a TC.
Oh, my gosh.
So guess what happened? I missed 2 deadlines, big deadlines, inspection, termination, or objection deadlines. And that's a huge mistake, and I can own that.
Yeah, but that's a transaction a week.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, that's crazy.
With no assistant and no transaction coordinator. And at the time I was married and my spouse was stationed in Korea, so I was also running my entire household for
How many 4 kids?
I do not recommend this level of madness to anyone ever.
Yeah.
And it was lucky for me that I actually did have a good brokerage that stood behind me, and that I had LOs that were phenomenal, title people that were phenomenal, and agents on the other side, brokers on the other side that were like, hey, we get it. Don't worry about it. Let's just do whatever we need to do to make the transaction happen.
When should you build a team almost goes perfectly in what did you used to do that that you don't do, and that's running solo. That's get some help now. Get people you can rely on.
Right.
Do the things that you're really good at, and find a way. Now, in the beginning of business, we all know you have to do certain things that you don't necessarily have to do later. So as your team grows, you don't have to take every buyer out. You don't have to take photos on your listings. You can hire a photographer. You can outsource to a buyer's agent.
I don't ever recommend taking your own photos, even if you're a first day agent.
But
in my office, we don't.
But I have one of those disposable cameras. I thought those aren't good.
Like iPhone where you stretch the photos, so the room looks.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I've seen refrigerators that were like 12 feet wide. I'm like, that is the world's best refrigerator. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on.
Wait a second.
That means this room is 180 feet long, which I don't think it is.
So really, Tim, all of the stuff that we're talking about is. If you're talking about a new broker, I just got my license yesterday. I just passed the test. I haven't picked a brokerage house. That's the first thing you need to do. And you need to go where your gut tells you to go out of the gate. Don't put your name on a brokerage because they have a big brand or
the split. I find to be the biggest problem for new agents is they say, well, they're gonna pay me 95% of all my stuff. Well, this guy over here is only gonna charge me $500 a file, but this one's only paying me $80. Well, but this one. Well, hold on a sec. Let's back up. What are you getting?
Right. What do you get?
And that is akin to a client saying, I'm going to list my house with this place for $500. Well, this guy's charging me 2%. Well, this guy's charging me 3%. Whoa, slow down. What's going to help you achieve this? Do you want a short win, or are you trying to get a big career
for the future?
Yeah,
are you actually building a career?
Yeah.
So you have to interview, and you have to go where you feel the most comfortable. Like you're going to get what you need, and understand that when you're, and even when you're seasoned in this industry, everything comes with a price tag on it.
Yeah.
It just is. It is what it is. Houses come with a price tag. Loans come with a price tag. This business comes with a price tag.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do something because again, we're the perpetrators of this the most. Well,
Yep.
my brokerage is 100% brokerage, and my brokerage isn't, and it
Yeah.
never will be, because here's what we provide to
Yeah.
you. Here's what you're going to get, and I promise you that if you follow the path that you've been given,
Yep.
you take the trainings and you put yourself in the CRM and you do all the daily activities, the return on your investment is going to be enormous.
Yeah, well, and that's a huge difference. Am I gonna am I gonna get the backbone, the technology, the training, the
Right.
mentorship that I need to win?
To be successful.
Yeah,
Or am I going to be an agent that does 3 or 4 deals a year, and then
Yeah.
I'm angry at everybody at the end of the year because I only did 3
Well,
or 4
and
deals?
in that case, here's what happens, and this is my personal experience watching thousands or at least hundreds of agents and loan officers. When that happens, there has to be a reason,
Right.
and that reason is never a long, hard look in the mirror, at least not for the
Right.
first few years, right? The reason typically is, well, geez, my brokerage, man, their technology sucks. My split sucks. My mentor sucks. Oh, geez, who can do a loan with the rates the way they are? Who can buy a house with the rates the way they are, Brandy? We can't sell any houses. Like there's always
Right.
a reason.
There's always a reason.
As opposed to, yeah, the reasons are there. They will always be there. I spoke to a gentleman the other day, and I said, what'd you do in 2008? He's like, REOs.
Right?
What'd you do in, 2003? Well, listings. What did you do? He went with, stuff's going to happen.
Well, that's the thing, is you have to be able
It'll always happen.
to be able to evolve too. If
Mm-hmm.
you are my favorite thing that people say, and I think I probably still sound young.
Yeah.
So when I call a broker that has never met me or doesn't know me,
Like, who's this millennial girl right out of the army?
and so I'm like, I'll be talking to them,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 50 years. Okay, I've been doing it for
Yeah.
20 as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, kind of, we got to try to evolve a little and make sure that we're moving with the changes. We're moving in contract changes. We're moving with environmental changes.
We're no longer writing contracts on carbon copy paper,
Right,
dude.
thank God. On the hood of our cars. But during COVID, I thought we might actually have to do that again.
Might have to
right?
go back to that.
But that's the thing, is being able to evolve in the industry. And
Yeah.
if you don't, then you won't make it.
Let me ask you a question about you being in the military, if that's okay.
Sure.
So you were an MP,
Yeah.
right? And I see you got a little grin when you said, you're like, heck yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that impact or influence your ability to do real estate, or how you do real estate?
Military is about discipline.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've been out a long time, so now I see the
Well, but-
military, I'm like, is it the same discipline that we had when I was in? And in every generation of military is the same way. Well, we're like, the military changed so much, you guys got it so easy.
Yeah.
I think real estate's the same way. Brokers that had to write carbon copies on the hood of their cars are like, I remember back when we had to flip through the listing book.
Oh yeah, you had to go down to the board and get the book each
Right.
week of the listings. Yeah.
So, I just think the discipline that you get in the military is, you don't ever lose that.
Does
so
being
you can transfer that anywhere.
Does being an MP, imagine, and we won't go down this rabbit hole, but I imagine that there were certain times where your resolve was tested and there was a little fear, and you had to just toughen up and do what you had to do. Since getting into real estate, do you find it easier to not, break down so easy after being an MP?
No.
Okay. It's still tough.
But I'm not an alcoholic.
Okay.
I don't do drugs.
Yeah.
And, I make it through every day with a smile on my face, pretty much, even
That's
at my
that's a
worst,
freaking win right there.
But I go 100 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah.
So, no.
Okay.
Because I'm always, and my clients, my
Yeah.
agents, everybody will tell you the same thing about me. I am 100 miles an hour. I have a 20 volume, and that's my indoor voice.
We are talking into microphones. We
Right.
could turn your volume down though.
So that's I'm 100 miles an hour all the time because I choose
Yeah.
to be, and
Yeah.
you don't have to be. You can make your business
You could be the
different.
guy driving down the interstate eating out of styrofoam.
That's
Slowly.
probably never going to happen.
Just chit chat.
But also not going to wrap my vehicle. with
That's
my
true.
logo
So,
on it. There's that.
either way, it's fine. Hey, a couple more quick questions here before we wrap up. If you could go to, you look at a brokerage, there's always going to be people doing business and people not doing business, right? And we've talked about CRMs. We've talked about your database. We talked about prospecting times and different things like that. If you were to walk into any real estate office, you're going to get 60% that aren't doing much of anything, right? I think what was the number I pulled up? It was, I think 17% of agents are what you would consider making a living at being an agent, something like that. And that was just numbers that I had pulled up. Yeah, right. So that's just making. Now, some people it'll be a secondary income, right? And,
Sure.
and so that's they don't.
I got into real estate because I had my husband had a steady income. He was
Right.
in the military, and this was something I could do and take the kids
Yeah,
with me.
you're like, woohoo.
Turns out that's not the case either.
Kids, you're staying home. Mom's out for about 6 hours
Right.
showing houses. So when you walk into those brokerages and you see people that they say, I want to win. I really need to win. But you see their actions. Now, I could say this from running a mortgage team. I can answer this question. But from a real estate team, what would you tell them? Like if from outside perspective, you say, if I could control your actions every day, what specifically would you do to get you to the winning stage?
Oh, yeah, no. I don't, there's no magical formula for everybody.
Okay.
You have to do your action-based activities every
Mm-hmm.
day. What are you doing every day that's prospecting?
Mm-hmm.
And that word is so awful because prospecting can be a gazillion things. We already talked about that.
Yeah, but prospecting is very...
You have to hustle every day. If you're sitting, and first of all, if you're sitting in my office and you're like, woe is me and the
Yeah.
sky is falling,
Yeah.
get out. Just go. I don't want you in my brokerage because
Yeah.
the people that are on fire.
Yeah, they
and
don't need
if
that.
Nobody needs that.
Yeah.
There isn't a single person that needs that.
Yeah.
You are in the wrong profession. If you don't wake up every day with a want, need, and desire to hustle for this, for
Yeah.
real estate, for taking care of people, and I'll tell you what, if you think you're in it for $1 million,
Mm-hmm.
get out now. Just go.
Save
Make
yourself
it
the
a little
heartache.
easier on
Yeah.
the rest of the people that are actually like, this is my passion. This is my desire. This is what I
Yeah.
do. And I don't do it. I do it for money. Yes.
Yeah.
It's my profession. And I've worked really hard at it, but I do it for the people.
Mm-hmm.
I do it for every single client that gets into a home. I do it for every single seller that is going through a situation and they're like, this house needs to sell today. What are we going to
It
do?
has to sell. Yeah.
Right? And I recently had a broker from another state I referred a client to, and she called me, and it was a cool compliment for me.
Yeah.
And she said, your client told me that I'm not as good as you, basically, and said that Brandy
My first
Brown would've
husband was
already-
nicer than you.
Yeah. So for me, I was like, that's freaking awesome. First of all, she is the same as me, so that's not the case.
Yeah.
However,
Pat yourself on the back and say, eh.
yeah, it feels pretty good to
Yeah.
know that a client, I helped them sell their house. They went to another place with a lot of knowledge in a different market, and
Mm-hmm.
they were like, we want these 10 things because this is what Brandy said needed to happen. And
Yeah.
that agent was like, that's not how our market works.
Yeah.
But they went with the knowledge that, hey, I need a home inspection. Hey, I need to have the
I need
sewer
this,
scope
and I
because
need to
the
do
sewer
this.
line was broken in their previous house, and
Yeah.
they didn't know it until they went to sell.
Yeah, I got clay pipes. I'm getting a sewer
Yeah,
scoop. That's all there is to it.
all of these big deal things, like
Yep.
that for me is the awesomest thing. Or when an agent says your one of your brokers wrote the cleanest offer I've ever seen.
Like, yeah, hallelujah, right? Because I don't
Yes,
want
'cause
junk
I'm
coming
like,
out of here. But here's yes, I feel the same way when we do a really bang up job on our loans, because what I do actually reflects on every single other loan officer
Exactly,
in the
yeah.
company. What another loan officer does with their client, and I don't even know about the conversation that they're out prospecting, how they handle that reflects on me,
Right.
and it makes my job easier. It makes my job harder,
Right.
and if we can elevate our game, it makes us better. Everybody
Yeah.
wins. And I find it interesting that the answer you gave me when I said, what is that one thing? Basically what I got out of that was you said, you can't want it more than them.
Right.
That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. They
It
have
is.
they have
Thanks
to
for
want it,
saying it like that.
right? You can't want it more than them because you're not going to pull them.
Right.
You can't pull them. And if they're grabbing the back of someone's wagon and dragging them slow. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Right. But if you
Mary's
want to
going
hitch
fast,
yourself to my wagon and you want to help, or you want to climb in my boat and grab a rower and help row, let's do that.
Last question for you.
Don't sit there and hold everybody else back.
Last question for you. This job is very stressful. It can be, right? How do you balance that? You have 4 kids, right?
Yeah.
You run a brokerage, and there has to be something that you do. You said you're not an alcoholic. You don't do drugs. You don't drive well, apparently. But
No,
maybe that's how it works.
But did you die?
Yeah, exactly. You might Formula 1 on the highway on I-25. It's that girl, yeah. But what do you actually do to unwind? Like what makes Brandy Brown relax and chill out?
Nothing.
Nothing.
But I'm a people person, so my unwind is being with people, being with my kids, hanging out, playing games, going to concerts. Like I'm not a loner. That's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm an introverted extrovert, I guess. And I just want to close the door and not be around anybody for just a minute.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times that happens to help you. You can hyper focus in those situations, right?
But 30 minutes of that, and I'm like, where are all my people?
Yeah.
Right?
Open the door. I got to hear some voices here.
Yeah. I have to be involved with people, and even if it's just we're going to Costco. Okay.
But that is a version of unwinding because I'm going with somebody. We're gonna have a conversation in the car.
Yeah.
We're gonna walk up down each aisle. We're gonna go on a walk through Garden of the Gods. We're gonna go to a concert this weekend.
Right.
Whatever it is, you're with people, and it's outside of real estate. And we live in a very beautiful place. You see beautiful mountains, in the landscape. Drivers are questionable again, but you're with the people, and that's a great way to unwind.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
It is for me.
Yeah. Well, that kind of wraps it up here, Brandy. Thank you very much for being here again for the second time. Give me a high five on that one. Thank you very much. That wraps up another episode of Cut to the Chase. That was with Brandy Brown from EXIT Realty Mountain View. Check in next week for more tips and tricks on how to win in real estate. That wraps up another episode of Agent Success Podcast. Remember, you can find new episodes each week at agentsuccesspodcast.com. We hope you found the insights and best practices shared today truly valuable. And if you did, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, your success is a journey of learning and improvement. So let's keep hustling, thriving, and learning. Until next week, this is Tim Chase.